Welcome to Hanging Out with Robert, that's me. This video contains things that I encounter throughout the day. If for some reason I complete a task and you would like to see the details, you can click on the link in the description area below. This video also contains tips and tricks that I learned throughout the years. I plan on leaving this video accessible for about 30 days. After that, you can view it through my Patreon account. Thank you very much for watching. Kind of wild when the car up the street has the same wheels as your Volvo has that you just purchased. Is this a rent and roll situation? Same exact wheels, correct? I don't think I've ever seen that before on a Volvo 850 and a Lexus. Time to get to work. I need to get pepper over here, replace the timing belt, look for a front crank seal, replace that, and get that car in full service. It made it back from Niagara Falls with a busted timing belt and a miracle, no busted valves. I do not have a crank seal on hand, so I'm gonna go ahead and replace the timing belt on this car. Wish I had a crank seal, but I don't. So let me go ahead and get started getting this timing belt replaced on this car. Well, party people, here's Pepper. And I am about to replace the timing belt on this vehicle. This vehicle was purchased out of Arizona, so I believe it's rust-free. Hadn't really looked it over real good. We did a little walk around on it a couple weeks ago, and I didn't have a chance to do the post-purchase inspection on it. What I have decided now, within 100 miles of purchasing any of these cars, I will definitely remove the timing belt cover and take a look at what's going on in that timing belt area. This vehicle had a cylinder head job on it and was driven probably about 200 miles after the cylinder head, turbo upgrade, tune, and a couple other things was done to the car. The AC just wasn't working, and the guy couldn't drive it much with the AC not working in Arizona, so it wasn't getting much drive time. The car was shipped here, driven around Cincinnati for maybe 100, 200 miles, and then my daughter decided to take this car to Niagara Falls, which is about 450 miles. They got about a mile from the border, maybe less, half mile. They were going to cross into Canada and stay the night in Canada, and the car stalled coming to a traffic light. Couldn't get it started. Of course, everybody's knee-jerk reaction to a car stalling is to try to start it. Try to start it, cranking, no start. They called me, I told them to check for fuel. They had good fuel pressure, no start. So they were assuming that it lost spark for some reason. They pushed it into a garage, was about a block and a half away, into a parking lot. Small garage, used to be a gas station, gas pumps removed. The guy came out. Closing time, talked to him for a few minutes. He said, hey, you don't have spark. I'll see you tomorrow morning. This was Friday night, going to see him Saturday morning. Saturday morning, they moseyed over to the AutoZone. Got an ignition coil, because if you don't have spark, you either got a bad ignition coil or a cam sensor problem. 9 times out of 10, that's it. So they got a cam sensor from a friend of mine, delivered it to them to the border. They walked up to the border, walked across the bridge, walked into Canada, and stayed the night. After they got something to eat, and my friend met them, rode them to their Airbnb, which was about a mile from the border. Saturday morning, they went to AutoZone. They got a coil. They went over to the shop. The shop was about to close. It was between 11 and 12. I think he closed at 12. He was trying to wait on them. I told them how to put the coil on. They started tinkering around with the car, so the guy at the shop got a little frustrated and said, hey, if y'all not paying me to do the car, I'm out. So he left from there. They got the coil plugged in. Didn't start the car. They did not have tools to install the cam sensor. So they called me back, told me they were still broke. So I went up there to try to get them on the road. 7.5 hour drive. So the next morning I start troubleshooting. It indeed did not have spark. First thing I did was read codes. Code said cam sensor problem. I said, well, that's cam sensor problem. We don't have no spark if the cam sensor is bad. I don't normally see those go bad while you're driving. They normally go bad after you drive, park, try to start it, and it won't start. But anyway, I went on ahead, replaced the cam sensor, tried to start the car, still didn't start. Battery was getting weak. It sounded like it had low compression. Decided to pull a spark plug. While pulling the spark plug, I noticed that the timing belt cover was pushed out a little bit. It wasn't in like it should have been. I asked them if they tried to peek at the timing belt. They said no, they hadn't messed with that. So I was a little curious as to why the timing belt cover was pushed out. We checked for spark, pulling the spark plug, no spark. So I said, well, I'm not sure if this used cam sensor is any good. We'll put your cam sensor on my car. We did that, car fired right up. Cam sensor's not bad. That's a bad sign, so we may have electrical issues. Shouldn't have nothing going on with timing. Timing was fresh. So I had another ECU. Maybe we had electrical problems. Something went wrong with the ECU. It is a modified ECU. Got a tune on it. Popped into another ECU. Still no spark. My next deal was to pull the timing belt cover and see if the car was still in time. Check timing. Pulled the cover off, and to my surprise, the belt was still intact. The belt was hanging off of the cam. The exhaust cam sprocket had all 3 bolts sheared off of it, and that exhaust cam sprocket was just freewheeling with the rest of the timing belt path as we were cranking the car trying to start it. So the cam inside the engine was not turning, which is why the cam sensor didn't let it deliver spark, and the rest of the engine was turning with the cam gear that was hanging off the cam pushing against the timing belt cover, which is why the timing belt cover was pushed open about 1/4 of an inch. It hadn't come all the way off yet. The cover was keeping it on, but we definitely had a car that was not timed no more because the cam was sitting still in the engine while the rest of the engine was turning. So I had to go to work from there, and what I did was decided, hey, I have nothing to lose. 460 miles from home. I'm going to take the timing belt loose. I'm going to get those screws out of the cam. I'm going to find some screws in my hardware stash and put the belt back on and see if the car will start. I was thinking maybe at a minimum it would have 2 valves bent on 1 cylinder. If I could drive the car on 4 cylinders, man, I'd drive it all the way back to Cincinnati like that. If it had 3 cylinders, wouldn't be as excited, but I would definitely drive it some. Heck, maybe all the way back to Cincinnati on 3 cylinders, but that would be very uncomfortable. I was hoping I'd get at least 4 good cylinders. So, one thing led to another. Made a couple of mistakes in haste. Accidentally flipped the tuning switch on the ECU, but after a little while, swapped my battery over from my car to this car so I could have a strong battery, and bam, the car started even though I didn't plug the mass airflow sensor in. Shut the car down, plugged that in, and the car is running as smooth as could be. However, when those bolts came out of the cam sprocket, one of them went through the timing belt, cut the timing belt, so the timing belt is probably half of what it should be. I also noticed oil in that area, so I suspect that the front crank seal was leaking. I was going to put a new belt on it right now and replace the front crank seal, but I cannot find a front crank seal. I also found the turbo inlet tube off of the turbo. A couple other things going on I straightened out while working on it. but the car is in time. It ran all the way back here, 470 miles or whatever we drove back. It has a damaged timing belt, so I'm gonna replace that right now. I'll get a crank seal some other time, replace that. And I'm glad the car made it back home without a big hassle, and it does not appear that any of the valves are busted because the car drove fine all the way here, got good gas mileage, and it's been driven since back and forth to take my daughter to work. So let me go ahead and replace this timing belt, and links are in the comments about this other stuff I had going on, and I appreciate you all watching. The moral of the story is, man, you got to get your car checked out fully. Whoever did that cylinder head job took the cam sprocket off. They over tightened the cam sprocket bolts, broke all 3 of them. 2 was probably broke before the last one finally broke because they were covered in oil. The last one broke right as they was coming to that stop in Niagara Falls. Now, had I pulled this timing belt cover and checked the timing belt area, I probably would have seen at least one of those bolts broken off on that cam sprocket and would have dealt with that at a much more, I guess, convenient time and location than driving over 7 hours to deal with it. So anyway, we made it. Let me go ahead and replace this timing belt. I tried to buy a timing belt when I was in Niagara Falls, but nobody in the area had a belt. They couldn't get me one for over a day, and so I just decided to take my chance, drive the car back with half a belt. So let's pull the covers off and everything and take a look at the belt so you can see what's going on. Here's the inside of the cover. You can see where the cam sprocket was rubbing the inside of the cover there and on the outer. Looks like a roller had rubbed the inside of this cover at one time. You can see where the belt was scraping it. You can also see where oil is. Now here's the bolts that was broken off in it from before. 1, 2, 3 bolts. I kept those, I don't know what for. So I'm gonna start the car and see if there's any wobble in this cam sprocket, which would mean, of course, it got damaged in that process. So if there's no wobble in it, I'll go ahead and leave it on. But if there is wobble in it, I'll grab another one and put it on. And you also see that somebody missed the bolt there, which is a common miss on people that do cylinder heads on these cars. They remove that and they forget to put it back in. They forget where the bolt goes. And for some reason, my bolt here got cylinder head material on it. So I need to clean that off. I got a thread chaser that was probably over tightened too. I got a video that says these are the top 5 things mechanics do wrong. Over tightening things is one of those do wrong things, and that's what this car suffered from. Over tightened all 3 of those bolts, broke them off, and I've already told you the rest of the story. So let's start it, see if there's any wobble in that cam sprocket. You can see the chunk missing out of that timing belt right there. I guess one of those screws came out, and I think it went through the belt, took a chunk out of it. So that's why I'm replacing the belt. If there's any wobble in that sprocket, it's kind of minute. I'm gonna see if I got one handy and replace it. I think the whole engine is vibrating through. Maybe I got the timing set. And you see how that's like a triangle there and a triangle there? The exhaust cam triangle points up. The intake cam triangle points down when you're doing these timing jobs. This timing may be a little retard, but that's no big deal. It ain't enough to matter. So let me go ahead and pull the serpentine belt, pull the tensioner, and keep this show rolling. I took the bracket off of here, and the fact that these fuel lines move like this tells me that whoever did the cylinder head failed to put the bracket on the back of the fuel lines down there. So anyway, let's keep rolling. I think I'm gonna take this crank pulley off. Let me think about that. If I take this ECU box out of the way, I'm gonna take the battery loose as well. Bottom of the ECU box is not secure. Somebody got something loose there. I found a razor blade down there, pulled it out. The wires going to the windshield washer reservoir are bare. I need to rewire those. This ECU box wasn't put on right, but we'll take care of that. Let me go ahead and break the tension off this serpentine belt tensioner and pull that belt out of the way. I think somebody mentioned to me that they thought there were metal rollers on some of these cars, and it looks like that's a metal roller there. I don't know if that means it's any better, but it is a metal roller. Looks like the belt's right on the edge of the thing too. It's got a new AC compressor. That was one of their attempts to fix the AC system. I decided to pull this harmonic balancer off so I could try to look at the seal behind that crank, see if it's really leaking. And man, I'm finding other hardware down here in the timing belt area. I guess that last mechanic dropped that stuff down there. And it's wet, so let me go ahead and pull that tensioner, pull this belt off, put the new belt on after I look at this crank seal closer. Well, here's the belt. It's got a chunk missing out of it there, and it's got a chunk missing out of it there. Half the tooth is missing there. This still has most of the teeth, but the belt's fractured. Other than that, looks like they put an aftermarket water pump in there, so I'm gonna order a new water pump for it. It's got some juice around it, so I'm gonna replace that too. Still has the oil cooler lines on them. They don't look like they're leaking, so I'm not gonna bother that. A little bit more work to do. Look like somebody's had this crank sprocket off for some reason. It don't seem like it's set all the way on there. The teeth here is sitting out a little bit, and it don't look like it's sitting back against the wall back there. It's not pulling off, so I might tap that on a little bit, see if it goes on a little bit more, but I'm not gonna worry about it because I'm gonna take it off in a little while. So let me order some seals and a water pump and visit this in about a week. I'll probably do it within a month. Let me rephrase that, week to a month. Yeah, that's an aftermarket water pump. I have no idea how many miles is on it, so I'm gonna get that off of there. You can see where the timing belt was running along the inner timing belt cover when it was coming loose, so I'm gonna see if I could get a inner timing belt cover. And also, this is what I found in the bottom of the timing belt area. This bolt there, this spacer there, and some hard pieces. This is, I don't know where it's from, but it's hard. Most of that other stuff is soft. But I'll clean that up when I come back in here for water pump replacement. I was able to get all 4 of those bolts out because it's twisted just right. Going back in, I'm gonna tighten this one first in case the crank turns a little bit. Then I'll hit this one, then I'll hit the center bolt. But I got the timing in, I got the pin pulled out. I wiped out a little bit of this timing belt cover. I got the rebounder in. Timing's on. I checked it with the cover. I'm gonna go ahead and put it together. I'll roll it over here in a minute just to double check it, but I think it's all good. The crank is about a 1/4 of a mark off. Cam's about a 1/4 of a mark. cam's about a quarter mark or a half, but I am in time. I rolled it around a couple times. Time for me to put the rest of this stuff on real quick. I got it all together. I'm getting ready to put a clamp on there, clean up this oil. The oil cap seal is good, so I'm not sure why we got oil here other than if it came out of that hose. I'm gonna seal that up and shut this thing down, close it up, ready for the races. This thing actually has 302 brakes on it too, boy. Looks like it's got a new CV axle. Of course, that's a new mount. I'm gonna go ahead and mount this wheel, test drive it, and get to work on Lemonade. I'm gonna go ahead, test drive the car, and get it out of my way so I can do the heater core on Lemonade. I'm smelling coolant from this car. I assume it had a heater core replaced or I'd done it, but probably not. So I'm gonna replace the heater core real quick and then go donate some blood. I thought this was gonna be real quick. Forgot this thing had a power amp in it. I was even gonna try to get it out from this side. That thing does not look old. Man, it doesn't look old. Well, let me get this apart because I'm wasting time. Well, this actually looks like an original heater core. 10395. That's wild. Doesn't look that dark though. Really crazy. Nice and thick. Does have some leakage up there. Probably more down there. Let me go ahead and pull it the rest of the way out of this container. Replace it. Get it back in. I got an appointment. This was probably the biggest leaking joint right here. You see all this green coolant there. Down there it was leaking a little bit. Some people, I don't know why people are asking me if I still use the Swedish carports, heater cores, and I do. These fins, no coolant runs through those. Coolants run through these pipes, and these fins are designed to radiate the heat off of them. So, let me see what the other side looks like. I don't really see. Yeah, you got a couple of good leaking spots there. Usually when this is darker, this is dark. It's not as light as I thought it was, but this gets darker. Man, those things split right open, especially if you got a bad head gasket putting pressure on it. So let me grab the new one, smell it. If it smells good, I'm gonna put it in. If it doesn't smell good, I'm gonna wash it. This is a replacement heater core from Swedish Car Parts. I'm gonna write my name on it, the date, the mileage. I'm gonna write the year on both ends and get this thing installed. See, the crimped ends hold the heater core in place. It doesn't smell too bad, but I'm gonna wash it out anyway. Pinched off my heater hoses this time, make it a little quicker. I sprayed through it with this oil eater, let that sit for 5-10 minutes, then rinse it off with hot water or cold water, power wash or whatever. Just rinse that stuff out of there and going back in with it. I rinsed it out, dried off the edge because I'm gonna put that gasket around there. I used the seals they give me. These are nice O-rings. Haven't had any problems with them leaking. Oh, let me go grab my Sharpie so I can write on this thing and get it installed. And that's it. It's all together. I got 7 minutes to clean up my mess and get to my blood donation appointment. 1:39. Now remember, these heater cores run hot coolant through them at all times. So whatever wasn't dry will dry soon when that 200 degrees hits it. That's it for today. Time to make my semi-annual visit to the vampires.
But it's one, like I said, I don't like to be told, oh, you can't if you did this.
Oxford.
But the big thing too is a lot of stuff I read. Just right. And if I'm paying,
I have to do this maybe twice a year. Hopefully help people out.
See, once my wife.
she said, I'm at some kind of show right now in this way.
If you feel that this information was useful, please like it and share it with your social media friends. You can subscribe to my channel so that you will get notifications of future videos that I post. You can follow me on Twitter, and if you need to contact me directly, please visit my website. And if you have any questions, leave them below, and someone or myself will reply to them. Again, thank you very much for watching.